236 of 400 laps. The flag commemorating D-Day 60 years ago, the strife and sacrifice made by our nation's fighting men and women. And we're proud to celebrate it here with the MBNA 400 Salute to Heroes. Tony Stewart has been the hero of the day. His Home Depot Chevy has been class of the field. It's led 155 laps as we go back to green with 13 cars on the lead lap.
He has been so strong on restarts. He normally has about a 3 or 4 car length advantage by the time they come off turn 2 on every restart. Right now, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 having to battle Kevin Harvick in the 29 1 lap down.
That 2 car of Rusty Wallace, he looks pretty racy to me, Larry. He's finally made up for all that time he lost in that first pit stop, and he is there.
It's taken him 200 laps, but yeah, he's sitting there running in the 4th position now.
Dick Berggren, hard to believe. You make one mistake in the pits, takes you 200 laps to get it undone.
Yeah, but part of what has gotten it undone, Mike, is that the crew has recovered very nicely, and every pit stop since then has been absolutely flawless. Rusty, delighted with his car. We so often hear him talking about the car, not liking this, not liking that. Today, everything is just right. It's all clicking for car number 2, Rusty Wallace, right now.
And if I could tune in to anybody and just listen to them all race long, that would be the guy I'd listen to. Well, I might listen to Dale Jr. He's kind of funny too.
I mean, he has 40 starts at this racetrack with 20 top 10 finishes along with 3 wins.
He turned the wick up now, buddy. That thing is sailing off in the corner.
Interesting lineup in the top 10. 2 Chevys, then 4 Dodges, then 4 Fords, and the first of those, they're all Roush cars. Mark Martin in 7th place. The Viagra Ford.
I mean, he's just been solid the entire weekend. Qualified 7th. Talked about guys bringing their same car here. Remember the great run he had at Lowe's. This is the same car he was so good with there before he had those ignition box problems.
His teammate Kurt Busch has come back into the picture. Are still wiggling around on him, Darrell.
They haven't fixed it yet. Gonna have to get on them.
There's you're riding with Biffle, who's a lap down. Here comes Kenseth to the inside, who is on the lead lap. And Dave Blaney right with Matt Kenseth, the 23.
Seeing Mark and Rusty up there in the top 5 or 6, kind of like flashbacks.
Yeah, Jeff Burton stuffed it in there underneath because Biffle wobbled up and Blaney took the high road instead of the low road.
No, we still got a long way to go, but this is definitely one of the best runs I think Jeff Burton and that 99 group has had all year long.
Right behind them, Brian Vickers trying to come back to the front after running up front in the early stages.
One thing I noticed about that 25 car, Vickers, he is so cautious. He really does take his time when he gets to racing with somebody to be sure that he doesn't make any mistakes.
Which is not a bad thing to do at this place.
No, I think somebody told him, if you run all day, keep your nose clean, you'll get a good finish.
Remember, I remarked about 20 laps in, he was passing cars. I said he looked so tentative on the bottom, almost like he didn't trust the car, Darrell, but I guess now after looking at it for a while, it's more like he's cautious.
I just think he's being cautious.
You know, I've been a little surprised that Jamie McMurray in the 42 car, the Havlin car, the black car on the inside. I thought he would run better, but he's battling right now with Scott Riggs and Dale Jarrett for the 20th position. All these cars 1 lap down.
I think he scared that car early on when they had that accident up there, and it hadn't been happy since. What do you think, Matt?
The BW had to pit for those flat spotted tires, but Jamie's been bouncing back and forth all race long. First he was tight, then he was too loose, then he was tight, then he was too loose, and that's where he is right now, just a little too loose.
Hear that train whistle? Train of Casey Kane. It's come to second, and it is headed to the front once again.
Train number 9. And Darrell, he has moved up the racetrack, and his car is getting a good bite up there about a groove up.
That's one thing I noticed about him all race long. Goes high, goes low. He goes wherever he wants to.
That graphic showed he was about 1/10 of a second faster than the leader on the stopwatch that last lap. The fastest car that last lap was Rusty Wallace. Stewart's lead, 1 second. It's 2.4 seconds back to Rusty.
Definitely Casey Kane in the 9 is quicker than Tony Stewart. Pretty consistently right now our leader.
Those first 6 cars are pretty evenly matched.
Our bud pole sitter, Jeremy Mayfield, he has pulled back up on the rear bumper of Ryan Newman in the 12 car back there in 6th position.
That car looks like they're one of those cars they keep kind of going backwards and forth. It must be a little loose one run, a little tight the next. Maybe they'll get her dialed in there before the day's over.
I think a lot like his teammate, his car likes long runs too.
Matt?
And Mike, that's the trait that car showed in final practice when he ran 70 laps. Now what they did to fix that race car, they went back, and you mentioned how the car looks like it did earlier in the race. Well, they went back to a setup they had earlier in the race. Took some air pressure out of the right front and also made a wedge adjustment as well.
It's an ever-changing racetrack. You have to just try to keep up.
And it's a balancing act. Okay, so I'm going to take air out of the right front. That's going to make it turn better. But I got to put around a bite in it so it'll be tight up off the corner.
150 laps to go, more or less. One more pit stop if we stay green. Car to the inside there is Kyle Petty running at reduced speed.
Now Kyle is 40 laps down.
13 cars on the lead lap as Tony Stewart sees Casey Kane growing ever larger in his mirror. 0.6 of a second is the gap first to second as Jeff Gordon's team has retired their Chevrolet for the day. Welcome back to Dover International Speedway. 259 of 400 miles completed here. The garage a busy place. 7 cars officially retired and out of the race at roughly 2/3 distance. Several more, like Casey Mears and Brendan Gaughan, have been in and out, and Kenny Schrader and Bobby Labonte making repairs coming back on the racetrack. 13 cars are on the lead lap led by Tony Stewart, and he's increased his gap over Casey Kane by just 0.2 of a second during that break.
But you know, Mike, you talk about cars out there on the racetrack several laps down. Let's talk about Elliott Sadler, the 38 car. Remember, he was involved in that wreck earlier in the race, and he was, at one point was 39th position. Now, this was very early. This was about back on lap 14. Gets involved with Brendan Gaughan, the 77 there. But they went to the garage area. They lost about 5 laps. But now, because of perseverance and determination by Todd Parrott, that whole M&M's group, he's out there now in 29th position. So they picked up 10 position by fixing that car as quick as they could, but as effectively as they could.
Jeremy Mayfield, the pole sitter and new track record holder, trying to come back to the front, working on Jimmy Johnson for 3rd. And doing it, Darrell, on the high side. Most of the passing we've seen today has been to the inside.
Yeah, it looks like that outside groove, the second groove, is working pretty good for some of these guys, particularly if your car's a little tight. It's a good place to move up to.
Particularly if you're a red Dodge, it looks like.
You don't really mind getting passed on the outside because you just drop down, the guy goes around you on the outside. Doesn't hurt your speed that much. Car I've been watching, and he's coming back into our picture, is the 6 car of Mark Martin. He has closed up on the back of Ryan Newman.
That battle is for 6th place. They are about 5 seconds behind the leader. And to find the 8th place car, you have to go all the way back to 11.5 seconds off the lead. Or Matt Kenseth keeps piling up the points, Steve.
And Mike, he just told crew chief Robbie Reiser that his car is way too tight on sticker tires, which are brand new tires. And Darrell, he's another one of those drivers who doesn't like low air pressure. Remember earlier in the race, he thought he had a flat tire. Then after 20 laps, he said it was like somebody flipped a switch and the car hooked up and took off. Nick.
has got himself a good race car. Same one he had last week. The only problem he is experiencing, and this has been going on all day, is the car is just a little bit free. Right now running in 7th position. Martin looking awful good this afternoon at Dover.
Guys, have been watching a pretty interesting battle right now with the 8 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. running back here in 14th position. And these guys have been battling to try to get their car better and better. And right now, he's 1 lap down, but he's in that position where if the caution does come out, he can get back in on the lead lap. But interestingly enough, he's being chased by number 29, Kevin Harvick. Both these guys are trying to get their cars back on that lead lap and possibly gain some valuable championship points. Earnhardt leading, and Kevin Harvick is 10th right now. So both these guys are trying very diligently to get back on that lead lap so they can salvage some championship points.
And I'd like to do it early enough in the race where they could get back on the lead lap and maybe fight their way back to the front. Remember last week, Dale Earnhardt Jr. went a lap down there. He got the free pass earlier and came back after getting that car better to finish 6th.
Well, there's only 13 cars on the lead lap right now. So if you can get back on the lead lap, you don't have many cars to pass.
Tony Stewart keeps picking them up and putting them down. He pulls up on his teammate Bobby Labonte, who's had a rough day, lost 28 laps, 3 of them on the track and 25 in the garage, making rear end repair.
Tony looks like he's got one of those cars like Jimmy Johnson had last week. The 9 car closed up there in a hurry, but then they're breaking about even now, as if Tony's just running hard enough to keep the 9 at bay.
Stewart, a 2-time winner at Dover, has not won this year yet.
And the irony of the 9 car, Darrell, there was one point last week at Lowe's, about 2/3 through that race, we thought Casey Kane had the number on the 48 car. He was a little better at one point.
He did on the long runs, but the race ended with a series of short ones. Tony Stewart's lead over Casey Kane now 1.1 seconds, 130 miles to go.